I want to do some examples of identifying and interpreting subjunctives. We're going to work with the Gospel of Mark. What I'm going to do quickly is search the Greek text for verbs, subjunctive mood, and say go. You'll see immediately that I get 208 results in 154 verses in Mark's Gospel. So I'm going to scroll down and start looking for those. They'll be highlighted in my copy of the Greek Bible. There's the first one. It is agomon. Now obviously we know this is subjunctive because we've searched for subjunctives. But we're going to pause and ask, how do we identify it? How would we distinguish it from other tense forms, etc.? This one is from the verb ago. The stem is ag. Ag means I go, I lead, something like that. You can see the lengthened connecting vowel, omega, we'll highlight it in green, and the first person plural ending men, agomon, agomon. If this was indicative, this would be omicron. It would be agomon, but we have agomon. The distinction in pronunciation is very slight. Agomon. This means let us go. You know it's not aorist because there's no sign of the telltale sigma. One of the uses of particularly the first person plural in the subjunctive is the so-called hortatory subjunctive. The hortatory subjunctive is translated by the expression let us. It's a urging of somebody to do something with you. This is present tense. It implies some sense of ongoing activity. So Jesus may well be saying, let us continue going to the other villages, implying that it's not a one-off or even perhaps a first time that he's done that. Our next one is a few words later where we have the phrase hina kai eke keruxo. Hina kai eke keruxo. And we can see keruxo is a subjunctive. This is from the verb keruso. So if I double click, you'll see it'll bring up keruso. You would need to know that the stem for keruso, or the root, is kerug, ending in a gamma. Think of kerygma, the preaching of the gospel. So kerug is the root. This then, I'll highlight it in red, is the telltale sigma. Remember, the tense formative for the aorist subjunctive is sigma. The alpha's disappeared. This is the telltale sigma. When you have a vela and you join it to sigma, it becomes xi. Xi. And omega is the lengthened connecting vowel. So we will once again highlight this in green. It's the lengthened connecting vowel. First person singular. There is no personal ending, so nothing to put in blue. Keruxo means I might go, and it is aorist tense. A very easy way to know that this is subjunctive would have been to notice the hina. Hina is an absolute giveaway that a subjunctive is coming. Now, by the way, keruxo would also be the form for the future active indicative first person singular I will go. In this case, the hina tells me for certain that I'm looking at a subjunctive. It means in order that I might preach there. It's a purpose clause. Our next one is theles. Theles. And notice the expression eon, theles. Eon, by the way, is a dead giveaway as well. It's exactly like hina. If you see eon, you can take poison that a subjunctive is about to follow. So I'll mark that in red. Our verbal root here is thel, from thelo, I wish or I want. We can see the lengthened connecting vowel, eta, and we can see the second person singular personal ending, the characteristic sigma of the second person singular active personal ending. So theles means you might wish, you may wish, something like that. Here it's in a conditional clause. If you wish, if you want, do nasai me katharisa, you are able to make me clean. How do I know that this is not aorist? Well, there's no indication of a changed stem, which would be what you'd have if it was a second aorist, and there's no indication of the telltale sigma, which would also mark a second aorist, sorry, a first aorist. We scroll down to verse 44, and we have Kai lege auto, and he says to him, Hora medeni medin apes. Hora, see, to no one, nothing, apes, you say. We are shown that this is a subjunctive. You should know by now that apon is from lego. It's the second aorist tense stem for lego. So I'm going to highlight it in yellow. It's a second aorist tense stem. We then see the lengthened connecting vowel. Remember that the lengthened connecting vowel, eta or omega, is a telltale indicative or diagnostic for a subjunctive. And the second person singular personal ending sigma, I'll highlight that in blue. Apes means you might say. You might say. And he's saying to him, see that you say nothing to anybody, or do not say anything to anybody. So this is aorist, second aorist, because it's built on the aorist tense stem. It's subjunctive because of the diagnostic of the lengthened connecting vowel, and it is second person singular because of the second person singular personal ending, which is also active, by the way. So it's active as well. Let's scroll down to chapter 2 and look for another one. Eidete. You should know by now that eidon is from oida. It's from oida. It's a second aorist stem. I'll mark it in yellow as a second aorist stem. We then have the lengthened connecting vowel, eta. The lengthened connecting vowel is the key diagnostic for a subjunctive. And the personal ending te, which is second person plural active. So you might say, if I were unsure that this was aorist, that this was subjunctive, here is an absolute giveaway. Hina always takes a subjunctive. So it's in order that, purpose clause, you might know it's aorist because of the second aorist tense stem. Scrolling down, we then come to aparte. Aparte from apairo. I'll open it up. Apairo means to take away. Alright, we can see there's a preposition in compound, apo. The verbal root is ar. Remember, from airo, the verbal root is ar. What happened in the present tense is that an iota was added. It's also a liquid verb, by the way, but an iota was added to the present tense stem. The actual root is ar. Now, it's pretty easy from there. Theta, you should know, theta is my first aorist subjunctive passive. First aorist passive subjunctive. Theta is the telltale. That's my key diagnostic for an aorist passive subjunctive. If it was an indicative, I'd also have an eta. That gets overridden by the connecting vowel. I have a lengthened connecting vowel. In this case, eta. We'll mark it in green. My personal ending would be iota, which you can see is subscripted. I can't highlight that, unfortunately, but you can see it's subscripted, which is indicative of the third person singular. So yeah, I have another one of those things. Just like hina introduces a subjunctive, hotan also introduces a subjunctive. The sentence, elusontai de hemerai, this means days, hemerai, are coming. Hotan, when. Aparthe, he may be taken from you, from them, actually. So, aparte, he, she, or it will or might be taken away. And here it is, when he might be taken away. How do I know it is aorist passive subjunctive? Well, theta is the telltale for the aorist passive, and that, the lengthened connecting vowel, is the telltale sign or diagnostic for the subjunctive. How would I know that this is not indicative? Because this would look the same for an indicative, or it could for some forms. How would I know it's not indicative? Well, if this were indicative, one would expect to find some kind of an augment. The augment would go, yeah, this would become up-erge, up-erge. The augment is absent. So you're trying to figure out, is this passive form subjunctive or is it perhaps indicative? Look for an augment. If you see an augment, it's indicative. If you don't see an augment, it's probably subjunctive. Let's scroll down again. Here's another one. Kategoresosin. Right, you don't know this word. It's from kategoreo. You can see it's an epsilon contract verb. Kategoreo, to bring charges in court. To accuse, something like that, or bring charges. Kategoreo. You can see there's a preposition, kata, in compound. Okay, so let's go and have a look at it. You know it's an epsilon compound, so this eta is simply the lengthened stem vowel from the epsilon contract. We've then added sigma. Now, what is sigma? Well, sigma is the tense formative either for a future tense, a future indicative, or for an aorist active or middle subjunctive. We'll mark it in red. When I see that telltale sigma added to my tense stem, I know I'm looking at either an aorist subjunctive or a future indicative. What comes next? Lengthened connecting vowel. Lengthened connecting vowel is definitely not going to be a future indicative. The lengthened connecting vowel is the big telltale sign that we are looking at a subjunctive. So the omega, we'll put it in green, my lengthened connecting vowel, and Mounts would tell us, learn say and so. When you see a say or a so, you're probably looking at an aorist subjunctive. We know sin, the noon is the movable nu. We know that that is third person plural. And by the way, if we were uncertain, the hina would have removed all uncertainty. So this means in order that kategoreso sin autu, they might bring charges against autu, him. This verb obviously takes a direct object in the genitive case. Kategoreso sin is aorist active subjunctive third person plural. There are my diagnostics. We'll do one or two more. Hope this is helpful and is starting to give you the idea. Here at the end of 3 verse 6 we have apolesosin. Apolesosin, it's from the verb apolumi. It's a me verb. We haven't covered those yet, so I'm not going to linger here. But even though we haven't covered them, there are some things that would make this easy to diagnose. There's our sigma, which is our tense formative. Lengthened connecting vowel. Third person plural ending with the movable nu. You would be pretty sure, without knowing too much about the mi verbs, that we are looking at an aorist active subjunctive third person plural. If I hover over, look at the bottom of the screen, verb aorist active subjunctive third person plural from apolumi. Not so hard, is it? We'll do a few more. I think it's valuable to practice these diagnostics. If we continue into verse 9, we're going to find proscartere, proscartere from, it's going to be an epsilon contract, proscartereo. You can see the pros is a preposition in compound, cartereo, and it means to stick by or to be close at hand, to attach oneself to, or it means to busy oneself with So there's a few possible glosses. We're not wanting to spend too much time on the glosses, so if I select that, you'll see the ESV translated to have ready. What is it? What are we looking at? Pros carte re o. So this is where the epsilon was. What's happened to the epsilon? Well, it's disappeared. Firstly, note there's no sigma. So this is not an aorist, at least not a first aorist. You can see the iota subscript. It's going to tell me that it's third person singular, and the lengthened connecting vowel a is going to tell me, oi, didn't mean to do that. Rain on my parade. The lengthened connecting vowel is going to tell me that it is third person singular and subjunctive. Let me just quickly show you how this is formed. I'll bring up a Word document over here. So what we've got is, let's just bring this up, maybe make our font size a bit bigger for illustrative purposes. We've got pros, car, tere, that's our root. Alright, then we would add a connecting vowel, eta, and the iota for the third person singular. When epsilon and eta contract, they contract to eta and then the iota subscripts. Pros carte re, so we're going to have, at the end of the day, we're going to have pros carte re, which is present active indicative third person, present active subjunctive third person singular. Hina, ploiarion, a boat, they might be ready for him, auto. Thlibosin is our next one. If I double click, you'll see it's from thlibo. So our stem is thlib. You can see the lengthened connecting vowel. Omega, third person plural ending. Sin, we are looking at a present active subjunctive third person plural. Very easy to recognize. What would this look like if it were aorist? Well, we would have a sigma. Remember that if you have beta and you add a sigma to it, it's going to become psi. The square of stops would tell you that. You'll see that here in some of these forms. So here's the future form, thlipso. What's happened? Beta plus sigma for the future tense converts to psi. Same there, and it would do the same in the aorist passive. So if this was aorist passive, we would have thlipsosin. You'd see the, sorry, not aorist passive, aorist active. You'd see thlipsosin. This would have become a psi. It hasn't, so we're looking at a present active subjunctive. So this is on account of the crowd, diaton ochlon, hina. If I was in any way uncertain, that would have removed it. Hina me means lest. Thlibosin, lest they crush, crowd upon him, press upon him, and probably has the sense of crush somewhere. So the picture is the crowd pressing in upon Jesus, and he wants a boat to be at the ready on account of the crowd. There are diagnostics, lengthened connecting vowel, active personal ending. Here's another one, hapsontai. This is going to be from hapto. If I double click on it, hapto means to cause illumination or burning, to light or kindle. It also means to touch. Let's go and find another definition. To make close contact, generally to touch, take hold of, or hold. And this tends to be in the middle voice. There you see it. So when it's used in the middle voice with the genitive, it means to touch. What are we looking at here? Well, you can see that the stem is hup. Don't worry about that tau. The actual root of this word is hup. So there's a modified root. How did hup become hups? Well, p plus sigma becomes psi. Again, the square of stops, p plus sigma becomes psi. So this is actually the concealed sigma. I'm going to put it in red because the sigma is my diagnostic for the aorist subjunctive. There's a lengthened connecting vowel, omega, a third person, middle passive ending, ntai, hapsontai is aorist, middle subjunctive, third person plural. Here's a clue once again. You'll see how common it is to find hina. So this was hina autu hapsontai, in order that they might touch him. So hapto, used in the middle voice, means to touch. Hina autu hapsontai, in order that they might touch him. There's no sense of duration or repetition. This seems to be a particular event where the crowds were pushing into Jesus hoping to be healed. They wanted to touch him. Okay, that should give you some sense of the process for analyzing subjunctives by looking for diagnostics. Let me just scroll back to the beginning and review the ones that we've looked at. So we've looked at argomen. You'll see there's no sigma, but there is a lengthened connecting vowel. So lengthened connecting vowel without a sigma, probably a present, as indeed it was. Yas ke ruxo. We've got the sigma, a little bit concealed. Lengthened connecting vowel, no personal ending. Aorist subjunctive. Eon or hina would be a clue that it's a subjunctive. This is present, there's no connecting vowel. Second person singular active ending, you might want or wish. Apace, much like the other one, second person singular, lengthened connecting vowel, but this is aorist because it's a second aorist tense stem. You have to know that. There's no way to recognize it if you don't know it. Similarly here, edete, that's a second aorist stem. The rest is easy. Lengthened connecting vowel, second person plural active ending, in order that you might know. Up arthe, we knew that this was the root r, and we can see theta, the diagnostic for the aorist passive subjunctive, lengthened connecting vowel. So the or tho are the tense and mood combination, if you want to think of it that way. And iota is the third person personal ending, which has subscripted. Kategoresosin, totally regular. It's an epsilon contract, so the stem vowel lengthens to eta. Then we've got sigma plus omega. There's our so, and sin we know is third person plural. Apolesosin, we don't know it, but actually we can pass it even though we don't know that form yet. Hapsontai, we saw that the root was hap. P plus sigma becomes psi. Lengthened connecting vowel. Ntai, third person, middle passive ending, in this case middle, in order that they might touch him. Poiesosin would not give us any trouble either. So we're looking for diagnostics. Keep your eye out for them. You should be able to pass most of these forms.